Donald Trump. From Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia. Part 1 of 2. Donald John Trump, born June 14, 1946, is the 45th and current President of the United States. Before entering politics, he was a businessman and television personality. Trump was born and raised in the New York City borough of Queens, and received an economics degree from the Wharton School. He took charge of his family's real estate business in 1971, renamed it the Trump Organization, and expanded it from Queens and Brooklyn into Manhattan. The company built or renovated skyscrapers, hotels, casinos, and golf courses. Trump later started various side ventures, mostly by licensing his name, managing the company until his 2017 inauguration. He co-authored several books, including The Art of the Deal, owned the Miss Universe and Miss USA beauty pageants from 1996 to 2015, and produced and hosted The Apprentice, a reality television show, from 2003 to 2015. Forbes estimates his net worth to be $3.1 billion. Trump entered the 2016 presidential race as a Republican, defeating 16 candidates in the primaries. Commentators described his political positions as populist, protectionist, and nationalist. He was elected president in a surprise victory over Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton, although he lost the popular vote. He became the oldest first-term U.S. president, the wealthiest U.S. president, and the first one without prior military or government service. His election and policies have sparked numerous protests. Trump has made many false or misleading statements during his campaign and presidency. The statements have been documented by fact-checkers, and the media have widely described the phenomenon as unprecedented in American politics. Many of his comments and actions have been characterized as racially charged or racist. During his presidency, Trump ordered the travel ban on citizens from several Muslim-majority countries, citing security concerns. After legal challenges, the Supreme Court upheld the policy's third revision. He enacted a tax cut package for individuals and businesses, which also rescinded the individual health insurance mandate and allowed oil drilling in the Arctic refuge. He appointed Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court. In foreign policy, Trump pursued his America First agenda, withdrawing the U.S. from the Trans-Pacific Partnership trade negotiations, the Paris Agreement on climate change, and the Iran nuclear deal. He also recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, imposed import tariffs on various goods, triggering a trade war with China, and started negotiations with North Korea seeking denuclearization. Donald John Trump was born on June 14, 1946, at the Jamaica Hospital in the borough of Queens, New York City. His parents were Frederick Christ Trump, a real estate developer, and Scottish-born housewife Mary Ann MacLeod. Trump grew up in the Jamaica Estates neighborhood of Queens, and attended the Kew Forest School from kindergarten through 7th grade. At age 13, he was enrolled in the New York Military Academy, a private boarding school. In 1964, Trump enrolled at Fordham University. After 2 years, he transferred to the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania. According to Trump biographer Gwenda Blair, his grades at Fordham were respectable and he was able to transfer to Wharton after an interview with an admissions officer who was formerly a classmate of Trump's brother Freddie. While at Wharton, he worked at the family business, Elizabeth Trump and Son. He graduated in May 1968 with a B.S. in economics. The Boston Globe in 2015 contacted former Wharton classmates of Trump, who described him as a vocal but unexceptional student, who rarely partook in campus activities and instead often pursued his business career. By the age of 22, Trump had a sports background in football, squash and tennis, and was just starting to play golf. When Trump was in college from 1964 to 1968, he obtained 4 student draft deferments. In 1966, he was deemed fit for military service based upon a medical examination, and in July 1968, a local draft board classified him as eligible to serve. However, in October 1968, he was given a medical deferment which resulted in a 1Y classification, unqualified for duty except in the case of a national emergency. Trump said in July 2015 that his medical deferment was due to his feet. He had a bone spur, but said he could not remember which foot was injured. Trump's presidential campaign then stated that Trump had bone spurs in both feet. His Selective Service draft card states that he had a birthmark on both heels. In the December 1969 draft lottery, Trump's birthday, June 14, received a high number that would have given him a low probability to be called to military service even without the 1Y classification. In 1972, he was reclassified as 4F, which permanently disqualified him from service. In 1973 and 1976, the New York Times reported that Trump had graduated first in his class at Wharton. However, a 1984 Times profile of Trump noted that he had never made the honor roll. In 1988, New York Magazine reported Trump conceding, "Okay, maybe not first, as myth has it, but he had the highest grades possible." Trump's ancestors on his father's side came from the village of Kallstadt in the Palatinate, now part of Germany, and on his mother's side from the Outer Hebrides of Scotland. Trump's paternal grandfather, Frederick Trump, immigrated to the United States in 1885 at age 16 and became a citizen in 1892. He amassed a fortune operating boomtown restaurants and boarding houses in the Seattle area and the Klondike region of Canada during its gold rush. On a visit to Kallstadt, he met Elizabeth Christ and married her in 1902. The couple settled in New York in 1905. Frederick died from influenza during the 1918 pandemic. Trump's father Fred was born in 1905 in the Bronx and started working with his mother in real estate when he was 15, shortly after his father's death. Their company, E. Trump & Son, founded in 1923, was active in the New York boroughs of Queens and Brooklyn. Fred eventually built and sold thousands of houses, barracks, and apartments. In spite of his German ancestry, Fred claimed to be Swedish amid anti-German sentiment sparked by World War II. Donald Trump repeated this claim in The Art of the Deal. Trump's mother Marianne MacLeod was born in Tong, Lewis, Scotland, to a Gaelic-speaking family. At age 18 in 1930, she emigrated to New York, where she worked as a maid. Fred and Mary were married in 1936 and raised their family in Queens. Trump grew up with three elder siblings, Marianne, Fred Jr., and Elizabeth, as well as a younger brother named Robert. Marianne is a retired judge for the Third Circuit of the Federal Appeals Court. Trump has 5 children by 3 marriages, as well as 9 grandchildren. In 1977, he married Czech model Ivana Zelníková at Marble Collegiate Church in Manhattan, in a ceremony performed by the Reverend Norman Vincent Peale. They had 3 children, Donald Jr. B. 1977, Ivanka, B. 1981, and Eric, B. 1984. Ivana became a naturalized United States citizen in 1988. The couple divorced in 1992, following Trump's affair with actress Marla Maples. In October 1993, Maples gave birth to Trump's daughter, who was named Tiffany after jewelers Tiffany & Company. Maples and Trump were married 2 months later in December 1993 in Manhattan's Trump-owned, at that time, Plaza Hotel. They divorced in 1999, and Tiffany was raised by Marla in California. In 1998, Trump met Slovenian model Melania Nos, and they married in 2005 at Bethesda by the Sea Episcopal Church in Palm Beach, Florida. In 2006, she gained United States citizenship and gave birth to a son, Barron. Melania became First Lady when Trump took office as president in January 2017. Trump is a Presbyterian. His ancestors were Lutheran on his paternal grandfather's side in Germany and Presbyterian on his mother's side in Scotland. His parents married in a Presbyterian church in Manhattan in 1936. As a child, he attended the First Presbyterian Church in Jamaica, Queens, where he had his confirmation. In the 1970s, his parents joined the Marble Collegiate Church in Manhattan, part of the Reformed Church. The pastor at Marble, Norman Vincent Peale, ministered to Trump's family and mentored him until Peale's death in 1993. Trump said he was not sure whether he ever asked God for forgiveness, stating, "If I do something wrong, I just try and make it right. I don't bring God into that picture." He said he tries to take Holy Communion as often as possible because it makes him feel cleansed. While campaigning, Trump referred to The Art of the Deal as his second favorite book after the Bible, saying, "Nothing beats the Bible." Trump has associations with a number of Christian spiritual leaders, including Florida pastor Paula White, who has been called his closest spiritual confidant. In 2015, he released a list of religious advisors, which included James Dobson, Jerry Falwell Jr., Ralph Reed, Michelle Bachmann, and Robert Jeffress. Trump was 70 years old when he took office, surpassing Ronald Reagan as the oldest person to assume the presidency. Comments on his age, weight and lifestyle have raised questions about his physical health. Trump does not drink alcohol, a reaction to his older brother Fred Trump Jr.'s alcoholism and early death. He has stated that he has never smoked cigarettes or used drugs, including marijuana. He avoids tea and coffee, but fast food is a favorite cuisine of his. Trump has said he prefers 3 to 4 hours of sleep per night. In December 2015, Harold Bornstein, who had been Trump's personal physician since 1980, released a letter stating that Trump will be the healthiest individual ever elected to the presidency. Bornstein noted that Trump had an appendectomy at age 10, but did not mention the bone spurs that Trump said caused his medical deferment from the military at age 22. A follow-up letter by Bornstein in September 2016 showed Trump's blood pressure, liver and thyroid functions to be in normal ranges, and that he takes a statin to control cholesterol. In May 2018, Bornstein said that Trump himself had dictated the contents of the December 2015 letter, and that 3 Trump representatives, including longtime bodyguard Keith Schiller, have taken away his medical records. In February 2017, in January 2018, Trump was examined by White House physician Ronnie Jackson, who stated that he was in excellent health and that his cardiac assessment revealed no medical issues, although his weight and cholesterol level were higher than recommended. Several outside cardiologists commented that Trump's weight, lifestyle, and LDL cholesterol level ought to have raised serious concerns about his cardiac health. In February 2019, after a new examination, White House physician Sean Conley said Trump was in very good health overall, although Trump at 6 feet 3 in, 1.91 m, and 243 pounds, 110 kg, was clinically obese with a body mass index of 30.4. Trump's 2019 coronary CT calcium scan score indicates he suffers from coronary artery disease, which is common for white males at his age. Numerous public figures, media sources, and mental health professionals have speculated that Trump may have mental health issues. The most common diagnosis cited is narcissistic personality disorder. Some cite delusional disorder. Some suggest early dementia. In April 2017, an online petition aimed at mental health professionals, calling for Trump to be removed from office, gathered more than 41,000 signatures and was sent to Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer. In October 2017, psychiatrist Bandy Exley published The Dangerous Case of Donald Trump, containing essays from 27 psychologists, psychiatrists, and mental health professionals on the danger they believe that Trump's mental health poses to the nation and to individual well-being. Trump has dismissed questions regarding his mental health, saying that he is a very stable genius and that he has one of the great memories of all time. In 1982, Trump was listed on the initial Forbes list of wealthy individuals as having a share of his family's estimated $200 million net worth. His financial losses in the 1980s caused him to be dropped from the list between 1990 and 1995, and reportedly obliged him to borrow from his siblings' trusts in 1993. In its 2019 billionaires ranking, Forbes estimated Trump's net worth at $3.1 billion. 715th in the world, 259th in the US, making him one of the richest politicians in American history and the first billionaire American president. During the 3 years since Trump announced his presidential run in 2015, Forbes estimated his net worth declined 31% and his ranking fell 138 spots. When he filed mandatory financial disclosure forms with the Federal Elections Commission, FEC, in July 2015, Trump claimed a net worth of about $10 billion. However, FEC figures cannot corroborate this estimate because they only show each of his largest buildings as being worth over $50 million, yielding total assets worth more than $1.4 billion and debt over $265 million. Trump reported hundreds of millions of dollars of yearly income from 2014 to 2018. Trump stated in a 2007 deposition, "My net worth fluctuates, and it goes up and down with markets and with attitudes and with feelings, even my own feelings." Journalist Jonathan Greenberg reported in April 2018 that Trump, using a pseudonym John Barron, called him in 1984 to falsely assert he then owned in excess of 90% of the Trump family's business in an effort to secure a higher ranking on the Forbes 400 list of wealthy Americans. Trump has often said that he began his career with a small loan of $1 million from his father, and that he had to pay it back with interest. In October 2018, The New York Times reported that Trump was a millionaire by age 8 inches, borrowed at least $60 million from his father, largely failed to reimburse him, and had received $413 million, adjusted for inflation, from his father's business empire over his lifetime. According to the report, Trump and his family committed tax fraud, which a lawyer for Trump denied. The Tax Department of New York says it is vigorously pursuing all appropriate avenues of investigation into it. Analyses by The Economist and The Washington Post have concluded that Trump's investments have underperformed the stock market. Forbes estimated in October 2018 that the value of Trump's personal brand licensing business had declined by 88% since 2015, to $3 million. Trump's tax returns from 1985 to 1994 show net losses totaling $1.17 billion over the 10-year period, in contrast to his claims about his financial health and business abilities. In 1995 his reported losses were $915.7 million. In 1968, Trump began his career at his father Fred's real estate development company, E. Trump & Son, which, among other interests, owned middle-class rental housing in New York City's outer boroughs. Trump worked for his father to revitalize the Swifton Village apartment complex in Cincinnati, Ohio, which the elder Trump had bought in 1964. The management of the property was sued for racial discrimination in 1969. The suit was quietly settled at Fred Trump's direction. The Trumps sold the property in 1972, with vacancy on the rise. When his father became chairman of the board in 1971, Trump was promoted to president of the company and renamed it the Trump Organization. In 1973, he and his father drew wider attention when the Justice Department contended in a lawsuit that their company systematically discriminated against African Americans who wished to rent apartments. The department alleged that the Trump Organization had screened out people based on race and not low income, as the Trumps had stated. Under an agreement reached in 1975, the Trumps made no admission of wrongdoing and made the Urban League an intermediary for qualified minority applicants. Trump's attorney at the time was Roy Cohn, who valued both positive and negative publicity, and responded to attacks with forceful counterattacks. Trump later emulated Cohn's style. In 1978, Trump launched his Manhattan real estate business by purchasing a 50% stake in the derelict Commodore Hotel, located next to Grand Central Terminal. The purchase was funded largely by a $70 million construction loan that was guaranteed jointly by Fred Trump and the Hyatt hotel chain. When the remodeling was finished, the hotel reopened in 1980 as the Grand Hyatt Hotel. The same year, Trump obtained the rights to develop Trump Tower, a 58-story, 664-foot high, 202 m, mixed-use skyscraper in Midtown Manhattan. To make way for the new building, A crew of undocumented Polish workers demolished the historic Bonwit Teller store, including Art Deco features that had initially been marked for preservation. Trump Tower was completed in 1983 and houses Trump's primary penthouse condominium residence and the headquarters of the Trump Organization. A general contractor unconnected to Trump started a repair job on the Wollman Rink in Central Park in 1980. The project had an expected 2.5-year construction schedule but was not completed by 1986. Trump took over the project and completed the work in 3 months for $1.95 million, which was $775,000 less than the initial budget. He then operated the rink for 1 year with some profits going to charity in exchange for the rink's concession rights. According to journalist Joyce Pernick, Trump's Wollman success was also the stuff of a carefully crafted, self-promotional legend. In 1988, Trump acquired the Plaza Hotel in Manhattan for $407 million and appointed his wife Ivana to manage its operation. Trump invested $50 million to restore the building, which he called the Mona Lisa. According to hotel expert Thomas McConnell, the Trumps boosted it from a 3-star to a 4-star ranking. They sold it in 1995, by which time Ivana was no longer involved in the hotel's day-to-day operations. In 1994, Trump's company refurbished the Gulf and Western building on Columbus Circle with design and structural enhancements, turning it into a 44-story luxury residential and hotel property known as Trump International Hotel and Tower. In 1996, Trump acquired the Bank of Manhattan Trust Building, which was a vacant 71-story skyscraper on Wall Street. After an extensive renovation, the high-rise was renamed the Trump Building at 40 Wall Street. In 1997, he began construction on Riverside South, which he dubbed Trump Place, a multi-building development along the Hudson River. He and the other investors in the project ultimately sold their interest for $1.8 billion in 2005 in what was then the biggest residential sale in the history of New York City. From 1994 to 2002, Trump owned a 50% share of the Empire State Building. He intended to rename it Trump Empire State Building Tower Apartments if he had been able to boost his share. In 2001, Trump completed Trump World Tower. In 2002, Trump acquired the former Hotel Delmonico, which was renovated and reopened in 2004 as the Trump Park Avenue. The building consisted of 35 stories of luxury condominiums. In 1985, Trump acquired the Mar-a-Lago estate in Palm Beach, Florida, for $10 million, $7 million for the real estate and $3 million for the furnishings. His initial offer of $28 million had been rejected, and he was able to obtain the property for the lower price after a real estate market slump. The home was built in the 1920s by heiress and socialite Marjorie Merriweather Post. After her death, her heirs unsuccessfully tried to donate the property to the government before putting it up for sale. In addition to using a wing of the estate as a home, Trump turned Mar-a-Lago into a private club. In order to join, prospective members had to pay an initiation fee and annual dues. The initiation fee was $100,000 until 2016. It was doubled to $200,000 in January 2017. After New Jersey legalized casino gambling in 1977, Trump traveled to Atlantic City to explore new business opportunities. 7 years later, he opened Harrah's at Trump Plaza Hotel and Casino. The project was built by Trump with financing from the Holiday Corporation, who also managed its operation. It was renamed Trump Plaza soon after it opened. The casino's poor financial results exacerbated disagreements between Trump and Holiday Corporation, which led to Trump paying $70 million in May 1986 to buy out their interest in the property. Trump also acquired a partially completed building in Atlantic City from the Hilton Corporation for $320 million. When completed in 1985, that hotel and casino became Trump Castle, and Trump's wife Ivana managed the property until 1988. Trump acquired his third casino in Atlantic City, the Taj Mahal, in 1988 while it was under construction. through a complex transaction with Merv Griffin and Resorts International. It was completed at a cost of $1.1 billion and opened in April 1990. The project was financed with $675 million in junk bonds and was a major gamble by Trump. The project underwent debt restructuring the following year, leaving Trump with 50% ownership. Facing enormous debt, he gave up control of his money-losing airline, Trump Shuttle, and sold his 282-foot, 86M, Megayat, the Trump Princess, which had been indefinitely docked in Atlantic City while leased to his casinos for use by wealthy gamblers. In 1995, Trump founded Trump Hotels and Casino Resorts, THCR, which assumed ownership of Trump Plaza, Trump Castle, and the Trump Casino in Gary, Indiana. THCR purchased Taj Mahal in 1996 and underwent bankruptcy restructuring in 2004 and 2009, leaving Trump with 10% ownership in the Trump Taj Mahal and other Trump casino properties. Trump remained chairman of THCR until 2009. As of December 2016, the Trump Organization owns or operates 18 golf course and golf resorts in the United States and abroad. According to Trump's fake personal financial disclosure, his 2015 golf and resort revenue amounted to $382 million, while his 3 European golf courses did not show a profit. Trump began acquiring and constructing golf courses in 1999. His first property was the Trump International Golf Club, West Palm Beach in Florida. By 2007, he owned 4 courses around the U.S. Following the financial crisis of 2007 to 2008, he began purchasing existing golf courses and redesigning them. His use of these courses during his presidency was controversial. Despite frequently criticizing his predecessor Barack Obama for his numerous golf outings, Trump golfed 11 times during his first 8 weeks in office. Trump visited one of his golf resorts on 187 of his first 848 days in office, 22% of the time. The Trump Organization expanded its business into branding and management by licensing the Trump name for a large number of building projects that are not owned and operated by other people and companies. In the late 2000s and early 2010s, the Trump Organization expanded its footprint beyond New York with the branding and management of various developers' hotel towers around the world. These included projects in Chicago, Las Vegas, Washington, D.C., Panama City, Toronto, and Vancouver. There are also Trump-branded buildings in Dubai, Honolulu, Istanbul, Manila, Mumbai, and Indonesia. The Trump name has also been licensed for various consumer products and services, including the short-lived Cadillac Trump series, foodstuffs, apparel, adult learning courses, and home furnishings. According to an analysis by The Washington Post, there are more than 50 licensing or management deals involving Trump's name, which have generated at least $59 million in yearly revenue for his companies. By 2018, only 2 consumer goods companies continued to license his name. As of April 2018, Trump and his businesses had been involved in more than 4,000 state and federal legal actions, according to a running tally by USA Today. As of 2016, he or one of his companies had been the plaintiff in 1,900 cases and the defendant in 1,450. With Trump or his company as plaintiff, more than half the cases have been against gamblers at his casinos who had failed to pay off their debts. With Trump or his company as a defendant, the most common type of case involved personal injury cases at his hotels. In cases where there was a clear resolution, Trump's side won 451 times and lost 38. Trump has never filed for personal bankruptcy, although in 1990 he came within one missed bank loan payment of doing so, agreeing to a deal that temporarily ceded management control of his company to his banks and put him on a spending allowance. Trump claimed to have initiated this deal with his banks as he saw the downturn in the real estate market. but bankers involved in the matter stated they initiated the negotiations before Trump had realized there was a problem. His hotel and casino businesses have been declared bankrupt 6 times between 1991 and 2009 in order to renegotiate debt with banks and owners of stock and bonds. Because the businesses used Chapter 11 bankruptcy, they were allowed to operate while negotiations proceeded. Trump was quoted by Newsweek in 2011 saying, "I do play with the bankruptcy laws. They're very good for me as a tool for trimming debt." The 6 bankruptcies were the result of over-leveraged hotel and casino businesses in Atlantic City and New York. Trump Taj Mahal, 1991, Trump Plaza Hotel and Casino, 1992, Plaza Hotel, 1992, Trump Castle Hotel and Casino, 1992, Trump Hotels and Casino Resorts, 2004, and Trump Entertainment Resorts, 2009. During the 1980s, more than 70 banks had lent Trump $4 billion, but in the aftermath of his corporate bankruptcies of the early 1990s, most major banks declined to lend to him, with a notable exception of Deutsche Bank. Trump in April 2019 sued Deutsche Bank, Bank Capital One, his accounting firm Mazars USA, and House Oversight Committee Chairman Elijah Cummings, in an attempt to prevent congressional subpoenas revealing information about Trump's finances. On May 20, 2019, D.C. District Court Judge Amit Mehta ruled that Mazars must comply with the subpoena. Trump's attorneys filed notice to appeal to the Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit the next day. The appeal was filed on June 10, 2019, arguing that Congress was attempting to usurp the exercise of law enforcement authority that the Constitution reserves to the executive branch. On May 22, 2019, Judge Edgardo Ramos of the Federal District Court in Manhattan rejected the Trump suits against Deutsche Bank and Capital One, ruling the banks must comply with congressional subpoenas. On May 28, Ramos granted Trump's attorneys their request for a stay so they could pursue an expedited appeal through the courts. After taking over control of the Trump Organization in 1971, Trump expanded its real estate operations and ventured into other business activities. The company eventually became the umbrella organization for several hundred individual business ventures and partnerships, some more successful than others. In September 1983, Trump purchased the New Jersey Generals, an American football team that played in the United States Football League, USFL. After the 1985 season, the league folded largely due to Trump's strategy of moving games to a full schedule where they competed with the NFL for audience, and trying to force a merger with the NFL by bringing an antitrust lawsuit against the organization. Trump's businesses have hosted several boxing matches at the Atlantic City Convention Hall adjacent to and promoted as taking place at the Trump Plaza in Atlantic City, including Mike Tyson's 1988 heavyweight championship fight against Michael Spinks. In 1989 and 1990, Trump lent his name to the Tour de Trump cycling stage race, which was an attempt to create an American equivalent of European races such as the Tour de France or the Giro d'Italia. In 1988, Trump founded Trump Shuttle, purchasing 21 planes and landing rights at 3 airports in New York City, Boston, and the Washington, D.C., area, from the defunct Eastern Airlines, costing $380 million financed from 22 banks. The airline operated from 1989 to 1992, offering charter services in addition to scheduled shuttle flights. Never operating at a profit, it was eventually sold to USA Group in 1992. From 1996 to 2015, Trump owned part or all of the Miss Universe pageants, including Miss USA and Miss Teen USA. Originally broadcast on CBS, he became dissatisfied with their scheduling and took both Miss Universe and Miss USA to NBC in 2002. In 2007, Trump received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame for his work as producer of Miss Universe. NBC ended its business relationship with him and ceased airing the Miss Universe or Miss USA pageants after controversial statements about illegal Mexican immigrants during his 2015 presidential campaign. In September 2015, Trump bought NBC's share of the Miss Universe organization and then sold the entire company to the WME/IMG talent agency. Trump University was a for-profit education company that was founded by Trump and his associates, Michael Sexton and Jonathan Spitolny. The company ran a real estate training program and charged between $1,500 and $35,000 per course. In 2005, New York state authorities notified the operation that its use of the word university was misleading and violated state law. After a second such notification in 2010, the name of the company was changed to the Trump Entrepreneurial Institute. Trump was also found personally liable for failing to obtain a business license for the operation. Ronald Schneckenberg, a sales manager for Trump University, said in a testimony that he was reprimanded for not trying harder to sell a $35,000 real estate class to a couple who could not afford it. Schneckenberg said that he believed Trump University was a fraudulent scheme which preyed upon the elderly and uneducated to separate them from their money. In 2013, New York State filed a $40 million civil suit against Trump University. The suit alleged that the company made false statements and defrauded consumers. In addition, 2 class action civil lawsuits were filed in federal court relating to Trump University. They named Trump personally as well as his companies. During the presidential campaign, Trump criticized presiding Judge Gonzalo P. Curiel, alleging bias in his rulings because of his Mexican heritage. Shortly after Trump won the presidency, the parties agreed to a settlement of all 3 pending cases, whereby Trump paid a total of $25 million and denied any wrongdoing. The Donald J. Trump Foundation is a U.S.-based private foundation that was established in 1988 for the initial purpose of giving away proceeds from the book Trump, The Art of the Deal. The foundation's funds have mostly come from donors other than Trump, who has not given personally to the charity since 2008. The foundation's tax returns show that it has given to healthcare and sports-related charities, as well as conservative groups. In 2009, for example, the foundation gave $926,750 to about 40 groups, with the biggest donations going to the Arnold Palmer Medical Center Foundation, $100,000, the New York Presbyterian Hospital, $125,000, the Police Athletic League, $156,000, and the Clinton Foundation, $100,000. From 2004 to 2014, the top donors to the foundation were Vince and Linda McMahon of WWE, who donated $5 million to the foundation after Trump appeared at WrestleMania in 2007. In 2016, The Washington Post reported that the charity had committed several potential legal and ethical violations, including alleged self-dealing and possible tax evasion. Also in 2016, the New York State Attorney General's office notified the Trump Foundation that the foundation appeared to be in violation of New York laws regarding charities, ordering it to immediately cease its fundraising activities in New York. A Trump spokesman called the Attorney General's investigation a partisan hit job. In response to mounting complaints, Trump's team announced in late December 2016 that the Trump Foundation would be dissolved to remove even the appearance of any conflict with role as president. According to an IRS filing in November 2017, the foundation intended to shut down and distribute its assets, about $970,000, to other charities. However, the New York Attorney General's office had to complete their ongoing investigation before the foundation could legally shut down, and in June 2018 they filed a civil suit against the foundation for $2.8 million in restitution and additional penalties. The suit names Trump himself as well as his adult children Donald Jr., Eric, and Ivanka. In December 2018, the foundation agreed to cease operation and disperse all of its assets. Attorney General Barbara Underwood, who oversaw the investigation and lawsuit, said the investigation uncovered a shocking pattern of illegality. Before being inaugurated as president, Trump moved his businesses into the revocable trust run by his eldest sons and a business associate. According to ethics experts, As long as Trump continues to profit from his businesses, the measures taken by Trump do not help to avoid conflicts of interest. Because Trump would have knowledge of how his administration's policies would affect his businesses, ethics experts recommend that Trump sell off his businesses. While Trump has said that his organization would eschew new foreign deals, the Trump Organization has since pursued expansions of its operations in Dubai, Scotland, and the Dominican Republic. Multiple lawsuits have been filed alleging that Trump is violating the Emoluments Clause of the United States Constitution, which forbids presidents from taking money from foreign governments. Due to his business interests, they argue that these interests allow foreign governments to influence him. Previous presidents in the modern era have either divested their holdings or put them in blind trusts, and he is the first president to be sued over the Emoluments Clause, a lawsuit, D.C. and Maryland v. Trump, brought by the Attorneys General of Maryland and the District of Columbia in June 2017, cleared 3 judicial hurdles to proceed to the discovery phase. During 2018, prosecutors issued 38 subpoenas to Trump's businesses and cabinet departments. In December 2018, before the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals issued a stay days later at the behest of the Justice Department, pending hearings in March 2019. In a March 18, 2019 hearing, a 3-judge panel of the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals was sharply skeptical of the legal basis of the suit, while the plaintiffs appeared confident they would prevail. On July 10, 2019, the court dismissed the case, finding the plaintiffs did not have standing. On April 30, 2019, Judge Emmett Sullivan, who had been presiding over another related suit filed by congressional Democrats in the D.C. District Court, declined a request from Trump's attorneys to dismiss the case. On June 25, Sullivan denied a request by Trump's attorneys to stay the suit pending an appeal, allowing Democrats to seek some of Trump's financial records. Trump has published numerous books. His first published book in 1987 was Trump, The Art of the Deal, in which Trump is credited as co-author with Tony Schwartz, who has stated that he did all the writing for the book. It reached the top of the New York Times bestseller list, stayed there for 13 weeks, and altogether held a position on the list for 48 weeks. According to The New Yorker, the book expanded Trump's renown far beyond New York City, promoting an image of himself as a successful dealmaker and tycoon. Trump's published writings shifted post-2000 from stylized memoirs to financial tips and political opinion. In 1988 and 1989, Trump hosted WrestleMania 4 and V at the Atlantic City Convention Hall. The event was billed as taking place at the Trump Plaza in Atlantic City. Trump headlined WrestleMania 23 in 2007 and a Monday Night Raw in 2009. The catchphrase "You're fired" he used on The Apprentice was also used by WWE owner Vince McMahon. In 2013, he was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame as part of the weekend festivities surrounding WrestleMania 29. In July 2017, Trump posted an altered video clip with the hashtag #FraudNewsCNN to his personal Twitter account. The clip, which was retweeted by the official @Bota's Twitter account, showed a WrestleMania 23 move of Trump seeming to knock McMahon to the ground and punch him. In the edited version, a CNN logo is superimposed on McMahon's head. Following months of Trump attacking the media and particularly CNN as fake news and enemies of the people, the tweet was widely criticized as appearing to incite violence against journalists. In 2003, Trump became the executive producer and host of the NBC reality show The Apprentice, in which contestants competed for a one-year management job with the Trump Organization. Applicants were successively eliminated from the game with the catchphrase "You're fired." He went on to be co-host of The Celebrity Apprentice, in which celebrities compete to win money for their charities. In February 2015, Trump stated that he was not ready to sign on for another season of the show because of the possibility of a presidential run. Despite this, NBC announced they were going ahead with production of a 15th season. In June, after widespread negative reaction stemming from Trump's campaign announcement speech, NBC released a statement saying, "Due to the recent derogatory statements by Donald Trump regarding immigrants, Universal is ending its business relationship with Mr. Trump. Trump has made cameo appearances in 12 films and 14 television series, including as the father of one of the characters in The Little Rascals. He performed a song with Megan Mullally at the 57th Primetime Emmy Awards in 2005. Trump receives a pension as a member of the Screen Actors Guild. His financial disclosure forms mentioned an annual pension of $110,000 in 2016 and $85,000 in 2017. Starting in the 1990s, Trump was a guest about 24 times on the nationally syndicated Howard Stern show, but he has made no appearances since he became president. Trump also had his own short-form talk radio program called Trumped, 1 to 2 minutes on weekdays, from 2004 to 2008. In 2011, Trump was given a weekly unpaid guest commentator spot on Fox and Friends that continued until he started his presidential candidacy in 2015. Presidential approval polls taken during the first 10 months of Trump's term have shown him to be the least popular U.S. president in the history of modern opinion polls. A Pew Research Center global poll conducted in July 2017 found a median of just 22% as confidence in Trump to do the right thing when it comes to international affairs. This compares to a median of 64% rate of confidence for his predecessor Barack Obama. Trump received a high rating in only 2 countries, Russia and Israel. An August 2017 Politico Morning Consult poll found on some measures that majorities of voters have low opinions of his character and competence. By December 2018, Trump's approval ratings, averaged over many polls, stood at roughly 42%, 2 points below Obama's 44% at the same time in his presidency, and 1 point above Ronald Reagan. Trump's 2-year average Gallup approval rating was the lowest of any president since World War II. Trump is the only elected president who did not place first on Gallup's poll of Americans' most admired men in his first year in office, coming in second behind Obama. The Gallup poll near the end of Trump's second year in office named him the second most admired man in America, behind Obama, for the 4th consecutive year. As president, Trump has frequently made false statements in public speeches and remarks. The statements have been documented by fact-checkers. Academics and the media have widely described the phenomenon as unprecedented in American politics. This trait of his was similarly observed when he was a presidential candidate. His falsehoods have also become a distinctive part of his political identity. Trump uttered at least one false or misleading claim per day on 91 of his first 99 days in office, according to the New York Times, and 1,318 total in his first 263 days in office, according to the fact-checker political analysis column of The Washington Post. By the Post's tally, it took Trump 601 days to reach 5,000 false or misleading statements and another 226 days to reach the 10,000 mark. For the 7 weeks leading up to the midterm elections, it rose to an average of 30 per day from 4.9 during his first 100 days in office. The Post's latest tally is 10,796 as of June 7, 2019. Many of Trump's comments and actions over the years have been characterized as racially charged or racist. Trump has repeatedly denied accusations of racism. In 1975, he settled a 1973 Department of Justice lawsuit that alleged housing discrimination against black renters. He has also been accused of racism for insisting that a group of black and Latino teenagers were guilty of raping a white woman in the 1989 Central Park jogger case, even after they were exonerated by DNA evidence in 2002. Trump maintained his position on the matter into 2019. Trump launched his political career in 2011 as a leading proponent of birther conspiracy theories alleging that Barack Obama, the first black U.S. president, was born in Kenya. In April 2011, Trump claimed credit for pushing the White House to publish the long-form birth certificate, which he considered fraudulent, and later stated that his stance had made him very popular. In September 2016, he acknowledged that Obama was born in the U.S., According to an analysis in Political Science Quarterly, Trump made explicitly racist appeals to whites during his 2016 presidential campaign. In particular, Trump's campaign launch speech drew widespread criticism for saying that Mexican immigrants were bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists. His later comments about a Mexican-American judge presiding over a civil suit regarding Trump University were also criticized as racist. Trump's comments in reaction to the 2017 Charlottesville far-right rally were interpreted as implying a moral equivalence between white supremacist marchers and counter-protesters. In a January 2018 Oval Office meeting to discuss immigration legislation, Trump reportedly referred to El Salvador, Haiti, Honduras, and African countries as shitholes. His remarks were condemned as racist worldwide, as well as by many members of Congress. Trump's statements and actions have been condemned by many in the U.S. and around the world for being racially insensitive, but have been accepted by supporters either as a rejection of political correctness or because they harbor similar racial sentiments. Several studies and surveys have found that racist attitudes have fueled Trump's political ascendance, and have sometimes superseded economic factors in party allegiance of voters. In a June 2018 Quinnipiac University poll, 49% of respondents believed that Trump was racist, while 47% believed he was not. Additionally, 55% said he has emboldened people who hold racist beliefs to express those beliefs publicly. In July 2019, Trump tweeted that 4 members of Congress, all of whom were women of color and 3 of whom were native-born Americans, should go back to the countries they came from. 22 women have publicly accused Trump of sexual misconduct as of June 2019. There were allegations of rape, violence, being kissed and groped without consent, looking under women's skirts, and walking in on naked women. In 2016, he denied all accusations, calling them false smears, and alleged there was a conspiracy against him. In 2016, 2 days before the second presidential debate, a 2005 recording surfaced in which Trump was recorded bragging about forcibly kissing and groping women. The hot mic recording was captured on a studio bus in which Trump and Billy Bush were preparing to film an episode of Access Hollywood. In the tape, Trump said, "I just start kissing them. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything, grab em by the pussy." In the tape, Trump also spoke about trying to seduce a married woman, saying he moved on her very heavily. Trump's language on the tape has been described as vulgar, sexist, and descriptive of sexual assault. The incident's widespread media exposure led to Trump's first public apology during the campaign, and caused outrage across the political spectrum, resulting in a group of GOP senators and representatives withdrawing their support for his candidacy, and some requesting that he step aside. In addition to the 2 women who had previously alleged sexual misconduct against Trump, 15 more came forward in 2016, during the aftermath of the tape's release, with new accusations of sexual misconduct, including unwanted kissing and groping. Trump publicly apologized for his inappropriate boasting on the tape but also defended it as locker room talk, and referred to allegations of inappropriate behavior by Bill and Hillary Clinton. Throughout his career, Trump has sought media attention. His interactions with the press turned into what some sources called a love-hate relationship. Trump began promoting himself in the press in the 1970s. Fox News anchor Bret Baier and former House Speaker Paul Ryan have characterized Trump as a troll who makes controversial statements to see people's heads explode. Throughout his 2016 presidential campaign and his presidency, Trump has repeatedly accused the press of intentionally misinterpreting his words and of being biased, calling them fake news media and the enemy of the people. In the campaign, Trump benefited from a record amount of free media coverage, elevating his standing in the Republican primaries. After winning the election, Trump told journalist Leslie Stahl that he intentionally demeaned and discredited the media, so when you write negative stories about me no one will believe you. Into his presidency, Trump has described negative media coverage as fake news. Trump has privately and publicly mused about taking away critical reporters' White House press credentials. Trump has been the subject of comedians, flash cartoon artists, and online caricature artists. He has been parodied regularly on Saturday Night Live by Phil Hartman, Darrell Hammond, and Alec Baldwin, and in South Park as Mr. Garrison. The Simpsons episode Bar to the Future, written during his 2000 campaign for the Reform Party, anticipated a future Trump presidency. A dedicated parody series called The President Show debuted in April 2017 on Comedy Central, while another one called Our Cartoon President debuted on Showtime in February 2018. Trump's wealth and lifestyle had been a fixture of hip-hop lyrics since the 1980s, as he was named in hundreds of songs, most often in a positive tone. Mentions of Trump turned a negative and pejorative after he ran for office in 2015. Trump's presence on social media has attracted attention worldwide since he joined Twitter in March 2009. He communicated heavily on Twitter during the 2016 election campaign, and has continued to use this channel during his presidency. The attention on Trump's Twitter activity has significantly increased since he was sworn in as president. As of May 2019, he is in the top 15 for most Twitter followers at over 60 million. Trump has frequently used Twitter as a direct means of communication with the public, sidelining the press. Many of the assertions he tweeted have been proven false. Prior to his political career, Trump received the Tree of Life Award by the Jewish National Fund in 1983, and the Ellis Island Medal of Honor in 1986, in recognition of patriotism, tolerance, brotherhood and diversity. He received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 2007, and was indicted in the WWE Hall of Fame in 2013. Liberty University awarded Trump an honorary doctorate of business in 2012 and an honorary doctor of laws in 2017, during his first college commencement speech as president. In 2015, Robert Gordon University revoked the honorary Doctor of Business Administration, DBA, they had granted him in 2010, stating that Mr. Trump has made a number of statements that are wholly incompatible with the ethos and values of the university. In December 2016, Time named Trump as its Person of the Year, but Trump took issue with the magazine for referring to him as the President of the Divided States of America. In the same month, he was named Financial Times Person of the Year and was ranked by Forbes the second most powerful person in the world after Vladimir Putin. As president, Trump received the Collar of the Order of Abdulaziz Al Saud from Saudi Arabia in 2017, and the Medal of Bravery from Afghanistan's Logar province in 2018. Trump's political party affiliation has changed numerous times over the years. He registered as a Republican in Manhattan in 1987, switched to the Reform Party in 1999, the Democratic Party in 2001, and back to the Republican Party in 2009. He made donations to both the Democratic and the Republican party committees, and candidates until 2010 when he stopped donating to Democrats and increased his donations to Republicans considerably. In 1987 Trump spent $94,801, equivalent to $209,068 in 2018, to place full-page advertisements in 3 major newspapers, proclaiming that America should stop paying to defend countries that can afford to defend themselves. The advertisements also advocated for reducing the budget deficit, working for peace in Central America, and speeding up nuclear disarmament negotiations with the Soviet Union. After rumors of a presidential run, Trump was invited by then U.S. Senator John Kerry, Democrat from Massachusetts, House Speaker Jim Wright of Texas, and Arkansas Congressman Beryl Anthony Jr. to host a fundraising dinner for Democratic congressional candidates and to switch parties. Anthony told the New York Times that the messages Trump has been preaching is a Democratic message. Asked whether the rumors were true, Trump denied being a candidate, but said, "I believe that if I did run for president, I'd win." According to a Gallup poll in December 1988, Trump was the 10th most admired man in America. In 1999, Trump filed an exploratory committee to seek the nomination of the Reform Party for the 2000 presidential election. A July 1999 poll matching him against likely Republican nominee George W. Bush and likely Democratic nominee Al Gore showed Trump with 7% support. Trump eventually dropped out of the race, but still went on to win the Reform Party primaries in California and Michigan. After his run, Trump left the party due to the involvement of David Duke, Pat Buchanan, and Lenora Fulani. Trump also considered running for president in 2004. In 2005, Trump said that he voted for George W. Bush. In 2008, he endorsed Republican John McCain for president.